Good guy, that Mike Garafolo. Not just a good guy, a great guy. He joins us every week here on the show from the NFL Network, our friend Mike Garafolo. Mike, the Frank Reich coaching tenure in Carolina lasted a whopping 11 games. And I thought it was interesting that Panthers owner David Tepper spoke on Tuesday. He never really gives a reason for the firing, but he does stand by the team's decision to draft Bryce Young. I know that Young is just starting his career, but they're not going to have that first-round pick next year. And I also know that there aren't that many coaching jobs, but how attractive is this coaching job at this point?
Jay, there are a couple of things that scare off potential coaching candidates. Number one, an owner who meddles in football stuff. Check on this one. And an owner who's got an itchy finger when it comes to firing guys. Check on this one. Now, I don't necessarily look at this and say, well, David Tepper is always going to be firing coaches after 1 or 2 years. It's not the decision to fire Frank Reich that was the problem. It was the decision to hire Frank Reich. I mean, he fell in love with Matt Rule. That didn't work out. Then he was going after Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson last year. Johnson withdrew from the search, and they said, well, we want an offensive coach. Instead of Steve Wilkes, the interim who did a great job, who's a defensive-minded coach, they said, well, we want an offensive coach, and they kind of settled on Frank Reich. So moving forward, it's not about whether David Tepper is making the decision to fire a coach quickly. It's the decision to hire a coach, and maybe he needs to bring in some help as well. But I did kind of canvass coaching candidates' agents, as well as some coaches and personnel folks around the league. And I thought I was going to get some pushback and say, yeah, no, forget that job. That's low on the list. A lot of people actually do find it an attractive job. Charlotte's not a bad place to live there as far as locations in the NFL. David Tepper certainly wants to win. He's willing to spend to make it happen. Bryce Young, not everybody's cup of tea, but most of the league thought he was the number one quarterback in the draft last year, as David Tepper continues to believe that as well. So it actually is more attractive than I thought it would be when I sort of canvassed the league and got some folks' opinion on this one. So I do expect that some of the top candidates, including potentially Johnson, once again, who's having another great year as the offensive coordinator as the Lions, and certainly is going to come out as a head coach this year instead of staying back as a coordinator as he wanted to do for one more year. I expect that some of the top candidates will be interested in the Carolina Panthers coaching job.
You have to feel for the Indianapolis Colts, and you have to feel for Jonathan Taylor, Mike. The Colts are a surprise playoff team at the moment. Then they find out on Tuesday that Taylor might be out for a while. Tell us the story. What's going on?
He had surgery on his thumb, and it is expected to be a multi-week injury for Taylor. Now, this is why you do whatever you got to do to get that contract as soon as you can possibly get it, and he certainly did that. That's why he came back to the Colts once he agreed to that deal earlier this season. But don't forget what Zach Moss did in his absence, and Moss, once again, will get the chance to lead the way in the backfield for the Colts, who are right there in the thick of things playoff-wise. They sort of snuck their way back into things the last a couple of weeks here. So Zach Moss, I expect him once again to perform well in Taylor's absence. And Moss, by the way, will be a free agent after the year. He already made himself some money earlier this year. If he shows he can do it again after kind of a restart, after letting Taylor take the lead in the backfield, I think he's going to earn himself some big bucks. Maybe not Jonathan Taylor bucks, but he'll earn himself some money this offseason. And then eventually Taylor comes back and you got that two-headed monster for potentially a playoff push, Jay.
The Vikings, boy, Monday could not have gone worse, and yet Tuesday they got some amazing news. Justin Jefferson activated from the IR. But is there a question, Mike, about who might be tossing Justin Jefferson the football when they get out of their bye week?
Let's start with Jefferson, because from the beginning we were told he wants to come back. And at the time when he was injured, it looked like the Vikings were not going to be in playoff contention with the Kirk Cousins injury and everything that was happening to them early in the season. But Jefferson made it clear that he was coming back no matter what. He's competitive. He has aspirations to be a Hall of Fame wide receiver. He wants to put up numbers. He wants to be available for his team. But he wasn't going to rush his way back because you can get a recurrence of the hamstring injury. Well, now they feel good about where he is. And yes, he will be back. That is the expectation after the bye week. And you're right. The Vikings will look over their quarterback options right now. Josh Dobbs did not play well, but frankly, nobody on the offense really played well the other night. He didn't have a whole lot of options for where to throw the ball. Now, he could have made better decisions instead of turning it over. But Dobbs certainly, I think, is the leading candidate to remain the starting quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. We shall see what happens as they discuss this during their bye, but they certainly need him to play better, capture that magic that he had early on. You know, Josh Dobbs, and he did the same thing in Arizona. He started off hot, and then he really tailed off after a couple of games. I don't know if this is a blueprint for how it goes for him, but the hope is that Kevin O'Connell and this coaching staff can get him back in the right direction.
Seems like Dobbs is better when he just doesn't overthink things or plan too much. He should just move around from team to team to team throughout the season, and he'd be very effective. Mike?
I also, if at whatever team he's on, I wouldn't give him the playbook till, like, I don't know, late Thursday, early Friday, something like that.
Exactly. It's the way to go. Yeah, don't overthink it. Hey, Mike, this is amazing to me, the Tommy DeVito story with the Giants. He has them in playoff contention. He has his own sandwich now, as Italian Americans get when they become somewhat famous. And my understanding, Mike, is you tried that sandwich. So my question is, how many of these hand gestures would you give the Tommy DeVito sandwich out of 10? How many out of 10?
Out of 10, that's a lot of Italian pinky rings on those hands right there. I'm gonna go with 9.5. So we'll give him the 2 shakes for each one, because that's it. You give it like that, right? That's 1. So I guess 9.5 would be 19 out of 20. The last one you just give the 1 like that.
Mike, we're seeing this right now. This sandwich looks absolutely incredible. What can you tell? And here's you trying it with your overcoat on, and really the technique is very impressive from you.
Well, it was 2 hours in the cold, which my producer who went to go pick it up, shout out Christine, she said it'll probably congeal, which will be good because then you won't have as much drippage, but it didn't lend itself to tasting it fresh. But I'll tell you what, after 2 hours in 40-degree weather, it still was mightily delicious. Tommy DeVito likes that chicken parm with the vodka sauce from the Natoli's in Secaucus. See, that's how you would say it if you were Joe Pesci in Goodfellas and the name of his character was, oh, that's right, Tommy DeVito. So how about that one right there?
It's incredible how you make things come around, you know, like that synergy. And I'll say this, if Tommy DeVito has his own sandwich, surely there will be a Mike Garafolo sandwich someday, and we'll try it on the show when that happens. Mike, your score for this particular segment this week is 9.5 hand gestures out of 10, and there they are right there. And I don't have any pinky rings, but, you know, in spirit.
Yeah, I'll teach you. Maron, Jay, Maron. That's what you say.